What's up, guys? It's Carly with FasciNATIVE English, where if you are finally ready to take your English to another level and to begin speaking English like a native English speaker, then you've come to the right place. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so I have another phrase for you all today, and it's kind of like an idiom, but it's also a proverb, which just means it has a little bit more of a deeper meaning than our usual idioms and slang phrases and expressions have. And this phrase is, when it rains, it pours. Again, that is, when it rains, it pours. Now, this just means when something bad happens, other bad things tend to happen at the same time. So something bad is happening and you have other bad things happening all at the same time. When it rains, it pours. So my example of this is back in 2013, I literally had everything that could go wrong for me during this week of my life. I was pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant yet, but I was pregnant, so I was emotional. And then on top of that, I was visiting America because I was living in Korea and my grandmother was sick. So I came back to America to try to visit her. And turns out I didn't have time to visit her. And that was the first thing that went wrong. Second thing, I came back to America to get my dogs. I had 2 dogs and I was trying to bring them to Korea. So this is where everything just really starts to pour. The rain really began to pour at this moment in time. I get on my flight to go back to Korea. I had to end my trip shortly because I had a lot of family problems that occurred. So I had to leave early and that was another problem. But then I get on my flight, I have my 2 dogs. I paid like $1,000 for my dogs to come with me to move back to Korea. I had all their documents that they needed because my mom had been working with me for months, making sure my dogs had like the shots and all the documentation needed for them to travel. So I had all that stuff with me and I was just ready to go back to Korea with my dog. I get on the flight, the air crew, they're so nice. They're like, your pet friends, your furry friends are traveling safely with you. Don't worry. Every chance they get, they would come to me and say, hey, your dogs are doing great. Don't worry. So I was like, man, this is superb service. This is amazing.
Ooh, this is nice.
I get to Korea. It's a long flight, I get there and I go through immigration and they pull me aside and they're like, hey, do you have 2 dogs with you? And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm going to go pick them up right now. They're like, no, you need to come with me. And I was like, okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
I was like, what happened? I'm thinking the worst, oh my goodness, one of my babies died. What happened? I was thinking the worst. Everything was running through my mind. Nobody was telling me what was going on. And I get to the immigration part where they have the animals. And apparently when I boarded the flight, the airline member was supposed to put documents that were stamped, USDA approved, everything was supposed to have a stamp. And they didn't do that. They didn't attach those documents to my dog's crate. So when I got to Korea, the documents were missing. And that's basically like a dog's passport. They need that to get into the country. So I was like, oh, I gave it to them. I don't know why they don't have it. And the worker was like, well, we can try to call and see, but the time difference, So they're trying to call back to America, see hey, do you guys have these documents laying around somewhere? But of course it was closed because it was 3:00 in the morning American time. So we had to wait. And then finally they get a hold of the people in America and they're like, hey, yeah, actually we do have these documents. Sorry, my mistake. They forgot to put the documents. So how this happened, I have no clue. How my dogs got halfway across the world without a passport before anybody noticed. But so yeah, the Korea was like, well, we can't let you in unless we have those documents. Even they cannot even be signed or faxed to us right now. We need the original document stamped with your dogs entering. There's no other way for us to let you come into this country with your animals unless you go back to America and then get the documents and then re-enter. So I was like, okay, great. How am I going to afford this? This is expensive. The airline that I was flying, I will not mention the name because I don't want them, no hate for them. But the airline that I was flying on were like, okay, this was our mistake. We'll do this for you. We will, pay for your flight back to America, pay for your dog's flight back to America. And they gave me business class. So It was really fancy. And I get back to America, I bring my dogs, and then I'm like, okay, well, I need to like literally book the next flight and go back to Korea. Granted, I'm tired. I was in Korea for like 10 hours and then I had to go back to America. I was luckily, the airline gave me a voucher. So I had a hotel in the airport, meal voucher. I was able to take a shower. So those 10 hours, I was able to sleep a little bit and take a shower and everything, but it was quick. I had to get back on the next flight, landed here in America, and I was like immediately, okay, I have to go back. I have work on Monday. This is like Saturday. I'm like, I have work literally just in a couple days and I have to go back to the country. So I tried to book another flight, obviously bringing my dogs again. I have all the documents and the weather was just too hot. They won't let the animals fly if the weather is too hot.
Every time I breathe, I sweat.
So they were like, sorry, the weather's too hot. We can't bring your dogs this time. Really? I'm like, really? First of all, I'm pregnant. I'm emotional. Second, my grandmother is so sick and she's about to pass away. She actually did pass away like the day after I went back to Korea. So I was worried about her. And then now my dogs, I can't take them. The whole reason why I wanted to, come back to America and do all this mess was that I can bring my dogs with me to Korea. So that's what they say. When it rains, it pours. It's true. So I was like, okay, well, at least I have to get back to Korea. So my mom, she came, she got the dogs, she took them back to her house. I had to go back to Korea by myself. I needed to go back for work. So the airline paid for my flight back to Korea. They did not give me business class the next time though. So I don't know, maybe they're a little mad that they had to spend so much money on this one mistake, but they paid for me to go back to Korea. I went back to Korea. I got all settled in. And then as soon as I landed, I had to basically go straight to work. And I went to work. I worked a long day. I was so tired, and then I realized that my phone had no charge. My phone was like almost dead. So I checked my phone, I plug it in, I check my phone, and that's when I heard the news that my grandmother had passed away. So it was literally so much in like 3 or 4 days, such a short amount of time, where there was so much going on in my life and everything was bad. It was like one bad thing after another, after another, after another. And that's when you can say, when it rains, it pours. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you all in the next video.